Oh, this is Rank Carcass, or as some people are referring to me, RC. That's fine as well. Uh, I'll be going to General Hand Grenades place this weekend and playing a game, and I believe I'm Germany. So I was going to check out this War Plan Z because I'm not 100% sure which scheme I'm going to use and why, and I'm going to show you why I can't figure out what I'm going to do. And it totally depends on what they do. So, yeah, this is the War Plan Z expansion from 1936 Global. And let's see, there's three different schemes here. Let me try to zoom this in here a bit. All right, so 1934 scheme, you start at the very first, starts in July 1934, which is not on our turn tracker. So 1936 July is when you would end up having to start it on this game. It costs you $12 to start it, and you get a whole total of 8 ships that you have to build. And it's not a get to build, it's a have to build. Now, I got two other schemes here, so I'm just going to pan this up a little bit here. All right, so I got scheme number 2. This is 1938. It starts in the first turn of 1938, which is the 4th turn of the game. This one costs $15 to start, and then I got to pay $12 a turn continuously if I'm going to do it like a mortgage, or I could pay it off faster. And this one allows you to build 15 ships, and I didn't mention it, but the first one gives you one slot of, or stage 1 for advanced shipyards, automatically filled out. This one will give you stage 2. Now, the 4th option is the 1939 plan, which starts 2 turns after the 38, and the only difference is this one has no light aircraft carrier. So it's 14 ships that you have to build. Costs $14 to start, so it's a whole buck cheaper. But yeah, so that's that. That's where these schemes are coming from. So I'm just gonna move over to here where I got some stuff laid out, and I guess I should zoom this out again so you can see the whole batch here. All right. So, where did all my pointers go? I got scissors, I got paintbrushes, I got pencils, I got my scissors. There we go. Okay, so first thing, you got this technology chart. So if I go with 1934 option, which costs $71 for 1934, and I get to build everything in this straight line here across the top. So 3 destroyers, 2 subs, a light carrier, a P-class cruiser or a heavy cruiser, and a fleet carrier. And they will also allow me to place this immediately right there in 1936, which gives me a leg up when 1939 July shows up, because then I only need to roll for 3 more shipyards. All right. But that's a total cost of 71 with a savings of 4. Because the placement here, it's actually $4 cheaper to place these ships than it would have been normally. So that's the advantage of that. However, in the first turn, right here, this is where turn 1, the first scheme starts here. Germany only makes $20. So if Germany is going to spend $12 on this scheme, it only has $8 left. Best case scenario, Germany takes or annexes Austria. So now it makes $2 more a turn. So it spends the 12. Now it gets to keep the 10. Right? So you're at 18. Turn after that, you annex another place, either Sudetenland or Slovakia. And now you're left with 11. The 4th turn, again, you're spending your 10, or your 12, sorry, and you're left with 12 in the bank because you've annexed the 3rd. And after that, you're stuck with, what is it? Should be 24. You're stuck with $24 a turn. until you actually attack something else. But if you attack something else, the British, Americans, and French all make more money, making it harder for you to fight them later on. So that's option 1. Option 2, 1938. So let's get this option 1 out of the way. Option 2 is this here. This one in the middle. And so this is 3 torpedo boat destroyers that you have to build, 6 subs, and 1 heavy destroyer. The same light carrier or light cruiser. This light carrier you also have to build. The P-class heavy cruiser or battle cruiser you also have to build. And then these, the same aircraft carrier, but now you have to build, I don't have the sculpt, so I'm just using this pink chip, this H-39 battleship. So that is what you get to start with this one. This one is a little bit more expensive since it's 15 ships rather than the 8. And what was the total cost here again? Total cost is $122 with a $10 savings. So it's actually $112 that you're going to have to pay to do all of this. Now, you don't get to do this the first turn, the second turn, the third turn, but on the 4th turn, you have to start it now. And the problem with the 4th turn is it's $15 to start this one. So let's say you annexed all 3 of those things. This is the same turn you annexed them. Or no, you would have annexed the 3rd one there. So you've collected the money. So you spend your 15 to start, leaving you with 9 left over. The next turn, oh, look at that, I lost a tenner. The next turn, you have to spend 12, leaving you with 12. And every turn thereafter is 12 and 12. So you're losing half your income. So if you don't do anything else, you'll have 20, 22, $23 saved up in the bank. And this would be the first turn you get to 24. So that would be 65. So you could have $65 in the bank that you're saving up to spend into this. But if that's the case, you're building nothing else. No infantry, no aircraft, nothing to land on these carriers. That's it. And you're going to spend 4 turns finishing off these ships. Minimum. So, for the next 4 turns, you're going to be, or actually, if you just paid it like a mortgage, I believe this would take you 12 turns altogether. So that's a hefty mortgage. If you're only paying it at the starting 15 and then 12 per turn. Okay, so that's that. Oh no, it'll be 11 because it's a little cheaper, but that's that option. That's heavy Navy, very heavy Navy. Now the 1939 scenario is exactly the same idea, but we're going to start it in 1939, so 2 turns later. Your income is going to be the same unless you've attacked France or Britain. And you're going to spend $14 to start that, leaving you with 10 in your bank. And then the turn after that, you're doing the 12 and 12 again. So 12 you're spending on this scheme, and 12 you're keeping. The only benefit of this is you've had 2 extra turns to save $24, right? So that's $48 extra in your pocket on top of the 65. So you would have enough money here, including your 14 here, to just pay the whole scheme off. And then all your money after this, you're building other things. But that's if you spend nothing else. So, again, Germany doesn't start that built up in 1936. It's pretty much on par with France and Britain for ground troops and aircraft. So it would be a tough slog. I do not know if I would bet on that. So that's that option. Now, and that's just the pure economics of it. On top of that, on the build chart for the setup, Germany's got this Bismarck battleship. It's stage 4. So you're still going to need to pay 6, 5, and 5 to finish it, right? 6, 5, and 5. That's $16. You're going to have this cruiser and this destroyer and sub that are already ready to place. But British also have a destroyer and sub ready to place, and they have this light carrier and this regular cruiser. And this is going to cost them 3 and 4 to move forward. So 7 and 7 for 14. So realistically, money-wise, it's pretty much even. But let's take a look and see how this is going to pan out. So this is the build right there. Let's move this up a bit here. All right. Before we get into too detailed in that, let's first look at how the opening setup starts. So Britain is making $11 a turn. They've only got 1 infantry, a militia, a strategic bomber, a medium bomber, and a militia, right? But at $11 a turn, they can beef this up pretty good. Or they can spend money on ships. And this is their initial setup. 2 cruisers, battleship, destroyer, a destroyer, battleship, cruiser, destroyer, a torpedo boat, destroyer, and a transport. And then also over here, they got another torpedo boat, destroyer, transport, and the sub in the Atlantic. So that's what they have right here. Now, if you look a little bit further out here into the Med, off Gibraltar, you can see they also have a cruiser and a destroyer. And they have a movement of 3, but they're at a base, so they can go 1, 2, 3, and 4. They can join this in 1 turn. Now, that's up to them whether they pull all their navy out, because they also have this little bit of navy here. They got a light carrier with a tactical, another battleship, a cruiser, and a destroyer. Also sitting at a navy base. And from here, all these things can go 1, 2, and then 3 from the base. And then from here, 1, 2, and they can also be here in 2 turns. So let's just go to worst case scenario for the Germans on just the British Navy. I'm not going to do the French. Just going to slap all this British Navy together without spending a penny, except for those $14. The British can combine all this Navy here together. Oh, don't forget those guys. So all this, these are free to place, and then those 2. That's a lot of ships. Now, I don't have any of this chipped out, but that's a lot of ships. Now, let's look at what the Germans have to start. The Germans have to start a cruiser, destroyer, a sub, and a transport, and then a coastal sub and a torpedo boat destroyer. That's it. So let's move this out here, along with what was available on the build chart already. So that's extra money on top of this scheme that Germany would have had to pay to finish this battleship. So that's where we sit. Now, seriously outclassed, if Britain goes all in here. That will, however, leave the Italians in full control of the Med, but which would probably make Italy start doing something crazy, but that's besides the point. Let's just focus on this. So, second schemes, let's do the first scheme first. So you add an aircraft carrier, you add this heavy cruiser, the light cruiser, and let's say 2 subs, and 3 more destroyers. Now, let's just get these all together here. I'll make showing this a little easier. I had this all together before, but then I deleted my video because it didn't make any sense halfway through. All right. So carriers, cruisers, torpedo boat destroyers, and transports are over there. destroyers and cruisers, subs, and hey, look at that. There's another light carrier. So you're gonna have to build a plane for that. Okay, so that's the competition right here. I don't think that the Germans are going to be able to fight that and win. Not a chance. Not even a remote chance. Right? So now let's take another look, and this is supposing that the British don't build any so we throw these cruise destroyers in there and the subs over there. Now this is supposing that the British don't do any building of navy. So now let's say instead of that scheme, we move on to a different scheme. Oh, these guys were also part of the scheme. So now let's do the second scheme, the 1938 scheme. So this is what I start with here. And I'm going to add this. I'm going to add another battleship, which attacks the same as the other one. So I'm at 2. The heavy cruiser, the light carrier, the light cruiser, the heavy destroyer, 6 subs. So that brings my total of subs to 8. And 3 torpedo boat destroyers. I'm assuming those are cannon fodder because it attacked and defended 2 and cost a 4. They're cheaper than a sub and they're not as combat effective as a sub. So even that, the best scheme, it's going to be kind of tight. Here, let's zoom that in a bit here. There we go. Now you can actually see what I'm talking about. All right, so destroyers, we've got 2, 4, 6 destroyers, 2, 4, 6 cruisers, 3 battleships, 2 light carriers, and 2 subs. That's for the British. For the Germans, we've got 8 subs. We've got 2 destroyers, 1 heavy destroyer. So the British outmatch us there. We've got 3 cruisers in total, 1 light, 1 heavy, and 1 regular. They double us there. Aircraft capability. Germans will be able to carry 3 aircraft, the British 2. What else am I missing? 2 battleships for the Germans versus 3 battleships for the British. So even with this war plan, the one that's got the most, it's going to be tight. That is assuming that everything from the Med and the Atlantic all join together to fight these Germans off. So that's a rough go. Now, if we go with the 38 scenario, the only difference is this 1 light carrier comes off. And assuming still that the British have not built any navy at all, which is kind of unlikely if Germany's building this much navy. So I don't know. It totally depends on what Britain does, where it moves its navy. I could see this being beneficial for the Germans in one way, as it may draw some navy away from the Italians, giving them more or less a fair fight versus the British. But that's a tough go. It's a tough nut. The only benefit also is Germany already has 1 tactical and 2 fighters built. Whereas the British would have to build another plane to throw on there, and they have. Should this navy be parked by London there or the UK, they don't have any other fighters here to scramble as well, so they might have to build that. I don't know. This one's kind of odd. It's one of those things where I think it's all dependent on the situation. So if I wanted to go cheap on the Navy, it would be this top variation here, where I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to commit to that, and I would just add that to these that are already in existence, this that's already in existence. All of these are already in existence, and this is available on the build chart to build. Doesn't have to be built though, and these planes are already in existence. So those already exist, regardless of what I do. So I could add that in, but I'd rather probably add this stack in, because that's a lot nicer. And this the extra 16 bucks for this, that's an option. But you got to remember, this one's at 112. So you throw another 16 in there, now you're sitting at 128. Right? That's expensive. Oh yeah, costs. I didn't cost out the 1939. It is $9 cheaper than the 1938 because this carrier is a total cost of $9. It's $1 cheaper to start, and the grand total savings. Where was I here? So $113 total cost, and it's got a whole $8 in savings. But that's, you're also not placing this $3 ship on there, which would be part of the where my savings account comes, or savings amount comes from, is the actual placement of the ships on here. Right, this one costs 5 to 6 to put on. This one costs 6 to put on. This one costs 5. You know, that's what I'm talking about adding up here. And then you add this other one here, which is another 3, right? That's the placement of this versus your $15 or $14 initial pay. That's where I'm getting the savings from, if you're wondering. The other thing that's handy is this tech chart. The 38 and 39 give you 2 here. Now, if you do with the 38, turn 1 is 1938, January. Turn 2, turn 3. On your 4th turn, you can start rolling these last 2, which would make building these ships, should you get those, cheaper by $2 for every ship that you start on the board. It's going to be cheaper by $2, and all of these ships at the end here are 1-turn ships. So to build, right? So the turn you place them, you would get the $2 savings on each one. So these $4 ships would now be 2, except for subs. They are only a $1 savings. So these $5 subs would be $4 each, and this $9 destroyer would cost you 7. So if you got the shipyards, it would be worth it, but that is relying on luck a lot, because it's a 50-50 and you got 1 chance per turn, and you're hoping you're successful twice. So by the odds, it'd take you 4 turns. In reality, sometimes you'll never get it, or you'll get it every time. It all depends. I've had a lot of very lazy scientists in this game. Okay, I think that's about it. That should cover everything, and the reason why I have this dilemma on, if I use War Plan Z in this game, which one am I going to use? Scheme 1, 2, or 3? Yeah. So hopefully I'll get a chance to pull one of these off, and not get annihilated for deciding to go with these crazy schemes. Because that's like right here. Let's take a look at that. So that's what Germany starts with, except for I removed these 2 planes. Look at what France has got. It's not much different. The British, not much different. I'm going to give you a headache. So Germany's got not that much for units here. And most of them are very, it's got one piece of armor. It's a light tank. You know, it's you're going to have to build a lot here if you want to take France out, because France is going to be building a lot to keep France. All right, and I don't know, I don't think I'd be able to do build up the troops required to do a sea line effectively right away. Maybe later turns, but I don't think I could do it right away here if I'm spending all this money. Although I can see it's very tempting in the start of this game with the few troops they have here. But like I said, $11 a turn, and every time I annex something, they go up $1, right? So if I annex 3 places, their 11 turns into 14. Yeah. So that could, and then if Italy decides to start annexing stuff, it could go from 14 to 15, 16. Oh no. Yeah. Just the one. Albania. Sorry. 15. But either way, that could be very expensive. Anyway, I am looking forward to this game. I'm going to be playing this weekend with General Hand Grenade off the YouTube. Please check out his video on this. He went over it a little bit more detail. I just went over the economics and whether I would use it in this specific situation. And if you've done anything with this or tried it out, please let me know how that worked out. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this thing's going to work out. Thank you very much. Hope you have a good time. And if this was entertaining, let me know. Thank you.